Good morning, Flagler County. I'm Rich Carroll. You're listening to Flagler's Morning News on Tuesday, March 15th, and this local news is a service of Flagler County's Toyota dealer. Beaver Toyota, here to wow you. Vice Mayor Eddie Branchino is expected to introduce a controversial moratorium on multifamily development east of US 1 at this morning's Palm Coast City Council meeting. Toby Tobin of GoToby.com and host of Real Estate Matters on WNZF says multifamily housing doesn't equal low-income housing or affordable housing. In fact, he points out much of it is high-end.
He just votes against all multifamily. What he's doing, he's basically going against the law, which says that he has to have a reason to vote against multifamily, stating that reason, putting it on the record that said, here is why it doesn't conform with, for instance, the comprehensive code or the comprehensive plan or the land development code or the future land use map. It's got to be defined.
Tobin adds a moratorium would likely have legal repercussions.
If the city council majority voted to decline, then that would be a lawsuit begging to happen, and the city would lose it, and it would take a long time and cost the city a lot of money.
It's not clear the moratorium will get very far. The Palm Coast Flagler Regional Chamber of Commerce is staunchly against it. Mayor David Alfin and Councilman Ed Danko also have not expressed support for the moratorium. Flagler County sees a slight uptick in unemployment figures, but there's an explanation behind the numbers.
Flagler County's unemployment rate in January of 2022 was 3.9%, a 0.8% increase from the revised 3.1% December 2021 report based on the latest data released from the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. Greg Blase, president and CEO of the Palm Coast Flagler Regional Chamber of Commerce, says this is typical of the annual January jobs report.
And the reason why for that, when you start to look into the data, is because the seasonal jobs at our local retailers ended, and now we're seeing those employees go back into looking for what's the next job that they're going to have, whether that was Bike Week, which just happened, or something else.
Blase adds, in the grand scheme of things, we're still heading in the right direction. He says next week, the February 2022 employment data will be released and will shed more light on our local job market.
Well, the economy is facing a lot of headwinds, right, with inflation, with what's happening over in Russia and the prices. And particularly, I would be slightly concerned about those in the tourism sector as well. Flagler County is a driving destination, so the price of gas, will it affect people coming here? We won't know that for several months until we continue to get the job numbers in, because these are lagging indicators. But in terms of a trend, I think we'll know next week when the unemployment numbers come out for February. It's not unexpected for now, but considering everything happening in the economy, we want to take a closer look at what February has to say before, really becoming concerned.
For Flagler's Morning News, I'm Karen Johnson.
Flagler County Sheriff's deputies bust a suspected drug dealer from Ormond Beach.
Sheriff Rick Staley says it started when deputies stopped a speeding driver.
Turned into a large drug bust, recovering 2 firearms, more than $8,000 in cash, 250 grams of marijuana, 21.4 grams of oxycodone pills, and 3.2 grams of methamphetamine. This is a well-known drug dealer who's been arrested multiple times, who had enough fentanyl to kill over 5,000 people.
The driver attempted to take off, but deputies pulled him from the vehicle.
He was arrested and taken to the Sheriff Perry Hall inmate detention facility. Sadly, he's already bonded out. I hope the courts and the criminal justice system holds him accountable for his actions. He now has had 38 felony arrests since 2013.
At the time of his arrest, the man was already out on bond for several narcotics and weapons-related charges. For Flagler's Morning News, I'm Rich Petchke.
We're learning more about Bunnell's new police chief.
David Brannon is a Florida native from Cocoa Beach.
Back in 1993, I came up to Volusia County, where I worked for the Volusia County Sheriff's Office for 26 years, retiring at the rank of captain.
He then took a few years off from policing and worked in the private sector in direct mail marketing and sales. Then law enforcement called him back, and he says he's blessed to be chief of Bunnell Police.
Rising through the ranks of the Sheriff's Office, being a police chief was always a professional dream of mine. And heard lots of good things about Bunnell, some challenges that needed to be overcome, and I like a challenge and want to bring what I have, God's given me, to the betterment of the city of Bunnell and to help improve our community here.
Brannon puts servant leadership into practice and says he's both approachable and an active member of his community.
I've been very impressed with what I've seen so far. They're excited, they're energized. I'm not just saying that. That's what they're telling me. That's what they're telling me about their peers, that they're excited about the future of the department. And I just look forward to what we can do to advance the Bunnell Police Department to the next level.
The Bunnell Police Department has a dozen officers currently, but has an authorized strength of 14. From the WNZF Newsroom, I'm Amy Cherry.
Why does environmental health focus so much on the ocean water and not as much as inland waters like ponds?
Flagler Health Department's Environmental Health Administrator John Bay says it's because that's where everybody wants to be.
Being a coastal county, there's a lot of people that use the beaches. We sample for bacterial contamination.
Bay said that since they cannot sample for all bacteria, his people look for one.
We use an indicator organism called enterococci. If we see that in a high enough amount, then we could reasonably assume that the worst stuff is in the water as well. You know, your E. coli, your salmonella, your shigellas.
Right. That's when Bay said the county does not close the beaches. They simply warn beachgoers that there are high levels of bacteria in the water. You can listen to Flagler Health Matters on Saturday mornings at 11:30 here on WNZF, anytime on the Flagler radio app. Tomorrow, how do you sample an ocean for bacteria? From the WNZF Newsroom, I'm Deb Albertson.
And now you're up to date on Flagler's Morning News. I'm Rich Carroll.